Welcome to the GTS video guitar course. On this, the first tape, we're going to look at the most basic elements of playing, starting with the actual parts of your guitar. So, here we go. This area is the sound box. The top of your guitar is indeed called the top. And here, we start with the bridge. These little plastic pegs that hold your strings in are called bridge pins. Now this is a steel string guitar, so the 6 pins protrude into the body. If you have a nylon string guitar, they do not have bridge pins. The strings end and tie around the back of the bridge. Alright, but nonetheless this area is still the bridge. This white piece of plastic or bone is called the bridge bone. On a steel string guitar we have a pick guard, and this is to stop the pick from scratching your instrument if you get a little too excited when you're playing. Now the sound is coming right off the entire top. The whole top is vibrating, but all the guitars have a sound hole. This is actually an oval hole in this guitar. Most guitars have a round hole. Okay, so we have a top, we have a bridge bone, bridge pins, sound hole. Now the neck of your guitar, which has all the frets on it, goes straight up. And you'll see lots of frets. These are position markers, these little dots. We keep moving up, and we get to the other end of the guitar, and we'll see a white bone, which is plastic, or actually bone, and this is called the nut. The nut has grooves in it, where the strings come off the fretboard and go up to the machine heads. These tuning keys, as they're sometimes called, is where you turn them, and that adjusts the pitch of the string to tune your guitar. These are called machine heads or tuning keys. And now we go back to the nut here, and we have where most of our work is going to be. On all of these tapes we're either going to be showing this position or the right hand where all of the rhythm happens. Okay, now you have 6 strings on a guitar, and the strings are numbered starting with the fattest string. So if I were to say play your 6th string, it would be this one. If I were to say play your 1st string, it's the thin one. Okay, which is a little bit different than you would think logically. Logically, the 1st string is the one you hit first. But in music, we always go by sound. So the 1st string is the highest sounding string. Okay, so your 6th string, your 5th string, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st. Okay, now after your nut you begin with your frets. This is just a position marker. Some guitars have them, some don't. Now the frets are how we change the pitch of a note or the sound of a note, and we change it by placing our fingers directly behind a fret. We don't put our finger on top of the fret. If you put your finger on top of a fret, the sound you get is very muted, dead. When you move it behind the fret, it's nice and clear. And for the first while, as you learn to play, when you're making your chords, they will in fact be a little muted at first. And when that happens, always watch to make sure that your finger is coming down behind the fret. Alright, so 6 strings. The 6th string is the thickest one. The 1st string is your thinnest. And then you have your frets. 1, 2, 3. When a string is played without having a finger on it, that's called an open string. That's your 6th string open. The 5th string open, I can pluck it with my finger just to let you see. Then the 4th string open, etc. Okay, now obviously in guitar playing, you're going to be playing combinations of fretted notes and open notes. Here's just a G chord. Some of the notes have fingers on them. Some of them are open. Now we're going to get into chords in just a minute, but we have to talk about tuning your instrument. Now years ago, when I was first learning to play, there were no electronic tuners. You had to tune your guitar either with a piano or with a pitch pipe. And this required you deciding whether the notes were too high, too low, and when they sounded right. This is a very difficult thing for a beginner because it requires skills that you really don't develop for quite a while. So what I'm going to do is first off suggest you get an electronic tuner. They're not very expensive and they will save you an awful lot of grief. And I'm going to give you the sound of your 6 strings, and I'd like you to turn your tuners on each string until they sound the same as mine. All right, and then once that's done, I'm going to explain to you how you tune without a tuner or anything like that, just so you know. It's important that you know how to tune. But again, I should emphasize that although this may sound like a commercial, but you should have an electronic tuner. That's a very important piece of equipment. Okay, now I'm going to play your 6th string open. That's your fat string. I'll play it a couple times, and I'll stop in between, and you should try to tune your guitar, your 6th string, until it sounds the same as this one. Now, if you purchased this tape or rented this tape from a music store, you may want to ask the guys down there if they will tune your guitar for you. I'm sure they'll be very cooperative. Okay, here's your 6th string. Your 5th string. Your 4th string. Your 3rd string. Your 2nd string. And your 1st string. All right, now that's probably the most difficult thing you're going to have to do in this entire course is tune your guitar if you tune it that way. Now, remember you can stop the tape, tune, rewind it if you need to hear the notes again. This is one of the nice things about video is it's forever patient and it's always accurate. Now, I'm going to give you the formula that's used when tuning your guitar with a pitch pipe or with a piano or even with another guitarist. And then you can keep that in mind and decide whether you want to tune that way or with a tuner. Now how it works is that you tune by what is called relative pitch. And in relative pitch, you assume that your 6th string is in tune. Now you can tune it to another guitar player, you can tune it to the E note of a piano, or you can tune it to a pitch pipe. But you must assume that this 6th string is in tune. All right? Then, with the 6th string in tune, you move up to the 5th fret, which is right here, and you play the 6th string behind the 5th fret. And the sound it produces is the sound of the fifth string when the fifth string is in tune. Now here is the sixth string at the fifth fret, and here is the fifth string open. Have a listen to the two again. They sound the same. That's because they're in tune. Now, with the fifth string is in tune, you take the fifth string behind the fifth fret, and this produces the sound of the fourth string open. Fifth string, fifth fret, fourth string open. Now obviously if you play the two notes and they don't sound the same, you adjust the note that you don't have your finger on. The one you have your finger on is the one that's in tune. You then go to the fourth string behind the fifth fret, and that produces the sound of the third string open. Fourth string, third string, and now, a little bit different, the third string is played behind the fourth fret, and that produces the sound of the second string when it's played open. Alright, now you take the second string, you play it behind the fifth fret, and that produces the sound of the first string open. Okay, that's the method of tuning called relative pitch. In any event, our guitars are now in tune. So let's stay here now in the first position, and we're going to look at your first chord. Actually, first we're going to name these notes. It's important that we start early with this. The sixth string, that's your fat string. This is an E. Okay? E. The fifth string is an A. The fourth string is a D. The third string is a G. The second string is a B. And the first string is the same as the sixth and an E. Now single notes have names alphabetically from A to G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Each of those notes has a name. Chords, which are combinations of notes, that's two or more notes played at the same time, they have names as well, alphabetically A to G, but because they are more complex, not only do you have a single letter name such as an A, but you have an A minor, an A7, an A suspended, all different names, but always at the root of a chord will be a basic letter name. And you'll learn as you develop as a player that when you see a chord that says A minor 7 flat 5, you know that you can play an A minor 7, or you can even play an A minor. You can always reduce a chord to its basic letter name. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. We're going to look at the E chord today. The E chord is also called E major, but major chords are the most common chords, and because they're most common, you tend to drop the word major. If someone were to say to you, play an E chord or a G chord or a C chord, they are in fact asking you to play an E major, C major, or G major. All right, now it starts. On the E chord, the sixth string is played open, fifth string is played behind the second fret with the second finger of the left hand. Now the fingers of the left hand are numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. The thumb doesn't count, although the thumb sometimes comes up to play a note, which used to be considered a very bad technique, but now there are so many players and so many good players, many of them use that. So it's once again a legitimate technique to use the thumb. But for us, right now, we're going to use the first finger, second finger, third finger, and the fourth finger. So, we're back at the E chord. The sixth string is open. The fifth string is played behind the second fret with the second finger. It sounds like this. The fourth string is also played behind the second fret with the third finger. And then the third string is played behind the first fret with the first finger. Okay, I'm just loosening that up so you can see what it looks like. Then the second string is open and the first string is open. Alright, so first finger goes on the third string behind the first fret. These two fingers go behind the second fret of the fifth and fourth string. Now, with my right hand, I'm going to strum all 6 of those strings. Congratulations, you've played your first chord. Now your chord probably sounds like this, but with a little bit of time and practice, you'll get it nice and clean. Now once you've got your fingers on there, let's try to play each note individually. And this helps you get each note to sound clean. Okay, the sixth string, fifth string. Now if it doesn't sound like that, it sounds like that. Press a little harder, maybe move it around a little. Go to the fourth string, third string, second string, and the first string. Once again, all 6. And now with the strum down. Now I'm going to leave my fingers on that E chord and give you a little idea of what you can do with just one chord. Well, I cheated a little, but as you can see, it may be your first chord, but it's an awfully good chord. One trick I learned with this chord when I was very young, which is about a week and a half ago, is you can take that chord and leaving the fingers on the strings, slide it up 1 fret. Not over, up. So now the first finger is on the second fret and the third and second fingers are on the third fret. This produces all 6 strings, a very open sounding chord, which sounds very much like Spanish guitar. Olé! Alright, now there's one chord for you to learn. If you have a look at your fingers now, you're going to see little lines through them, look a lot like tire tracks. This, for me, does not cause any discomfort at all. But for you, I'm sure, sitting in front of the TV with for your first time, your fingers are probably getting pretty sore about now. This is something that will go away with time, and one of the main reasons that your fingers will be hurting is that you're pressing down too hard. If I press this note down as hard as I can, it sounds like this. Now if I press down very, very lightly, it sounds like this. It's exactly the same. But at first we all tend to press white-knuckled and all the strength we can. But you should start to practice, put your fingers down, and then just very lightly play. Your guitar will sound the same, and it'll be an awful lot less discomfort. But that will go away, the pain on your fingers. Now, I'm going to show you one more chord, because we don't want to do too much. The whole point of this course is that each of these tapes leads into the next one. You should be able to learn what you have to do and know what you have to do probably the very first night. And it should take you about a week, some of them 2 or 3 days, some of them maybe a little longer, but it should take you a week to be able to play what we play on the tape. So keep this in mind. The very first time you watch it, if you sit down for an hour, play it 3 or 4 times, you should be able to understand what you have to do. But then you should be very careful to learn how to do it. So if we're changing 3 chords, learn those 3 chords, memorize them. Because as we go on in the course and you get to tapes 4, 5, 6, 7, you learn more and more chords, more and more techniques, and pretty soon you're playing awfully good sounding guitar. But there is a tendency for us to know what we have to do, we see what we have to do, and because we're excited we go on to the next tape without actually doing it. Please be very careful about this. Don't go on to tape 2 until everything on tape 1 you can play. Not fast, but at least accurately. Okay, I'm going to show you one more chord. It's called an A minor chord, and we'll learn it again later. But I want to show it to you right now because it is exactly the same as the E chord, except instead of the first finger being on the 3rd string, and the second finger being on the 5th string, and the 3rd finger being on the 4th, they move over 1 string. So now, the first finger is on the 2nd fret, the second finger is on, the first finger is on the 2nd string, the second finger is on the 4th string, and the 3rd finger is on the 3rd string. And when I strum, I'm only going to strum from the 5th string. That's called an A minor. E, A minor. Ow. Let's have a look at what the right hand is doing. I'm going to put my fingers on that very first chord, the E chord. You'll notice I'm using a pick. This is a medium light pick. I like the medium light. A thin pick or a light pick tends to produce a nice bright sound, but it's a little hard to control. A fat pick produces a very deep sound, but it's a little too stiff. You tend to get a lot of buzzes. A medium light, I find, and this is a gauge 60, is the best pick for me, and I would recommend it for you as well. Now, a pick is held between the thumb and first finger so that just a little bit of the pick protrudes. And you strum on a nice even arc down. Now, some of the things you heard required hitting a single note and then a strum. A minor, E, now I'm going to put the pick down and show you that you can also play, and quite often when you first start playing, the one problem with the pick is you can always drop it. And I bet you there's not one of you who knows how to drop your thumb or a finger. They're permanently attached to your hand, so I suggest you probably start using just your fingers. Now they're not quite as bright, they're not quite as loud, but gee, they're accurate. So now let's have a look at that E chord again, and I'm going to use just my fingers, say the first finger, strum down. That's a little hard to do with one finger. If you take your whole hand and just glide down, now my thumb is not touching the strings. That's a very good way to start, because you can strum down and you can come up and as far as hitting those individual notes, you can always use the thumb So on this tape, we've looked at two chords, the E and the A minor. We've named our 6 strings, E, A, D, G, B, E. We've looked at the different parts of the guitar, your frets, your nut, the bridge, the machine heads, the bridge pins, the bridge bone, the pick guard. We know what the sound box is, your top, the sound hole. That's a lot to learn right away. We've only done 2 chords because you don't want to try too much in your first time out, because your fingers are going to get very raw. As far as practicing goes, gosh, 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, and you'll have this lesson no problem. Now on the next tape, we're going to start with just some basic chords and go from one chord to the other and practice changing without slowing down. We're going to do that for 4 or 5 tapes to give you a basic repertoire of chords. Because when you play music, when you buy a book, all of the chords are indicated in the music, and you will be asked to change from one chord to the other without slowing down. That's half the battle. So we're well on our way. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you on the next tape.